How have you been? So Shaya graduated Tzomet Cyber program about a year and a half ago and has done a few wonderful things since then. And he has been gracious enough to accept my invitation to share his experiences with us this evening. He's today working as a pen tester for CyberSafe. And Shaya, maybe you don't know this, but we had a meeting maybe 6 weeks ago with Yaron, essentially your boss, and he said really nice things about you, and that the difference between when you came to the company, what you knew then and what you know now, and that you've done some really serious hacking since then. And he said you've hacked some really serious companies. So I don't know, whatever you can tell us, we're interested. So you have the floor, Shaya, to share with us the pathway of how you've done it.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Ratner and Jonathan, however you want to be referred to. But my name is Shaya, and like Jonathan said, I was in Tzomet about a year and a half ago. Everyone could hear me, right? Yeah, okay. So I've actually created like a small presentation here that I'll just, if I could share the screen, just makes it easier to kind of, here, 1 second. Can you see? Okay.
Yes, we see.
Yeah, you see? Okay. Let's just go to, I think it's slideshow from the beginning. All right. So a little bit about cybersecurity. So I'm probably like many of you coming from yeshiva background or Orthodox, not in the technology world per se background. And up until really 2019, as you see, I was in Yeshiva Mir, at which point I saw a sign, Tzomet. Okay, I was interested. It had been something I'd been looking into anyways in the field of technology, and I gave it a go. So Tzomet gave me that framework, and it was the beginning framework that I needed in order to start working towards cybersecurity career. From there, we went until today. Now I chose the path of penetration testing. Okay, so a little bit about like a cybersecurity job overview, and why I think choosing cybersecurity. Many of you are already choosing it, but to continue pursuing it is, and this is a little bit speaking from the red team perspective. I would say the offensive, because that's my interest. But things like penetration testing, web and mobile testing, consulting, business. You could be a business owner, you could work in the cloud, and there's so much more. So one of the things that cybersecurity offers is that even if you do choose one track, it shouldn't scare you that you're stuck, because what I see myself is that as I'm pen testing, really I'm learning more about web, and I have to speak to business owners, and I have to consult with them and tell them what I'm finding problematic and how to fix it. So mitigation. Again, everything in technology now is moving towards the cloud, so there's much more cloud exposure, and that might be something that you might be interested later on. There's also research and development that you're able to pivot into, and so this is like it's just the beginning of so many opportunities, and it's something which is very exciting. And I just wrote down a few keys to success. This is what I found to be helpful for myself. And one of the main thing I would say is just remaining curious and a desire to learn. It's a field, like I said, it's always changing. There's constant developments. And you might think of Microsoft as something secure today, and tomorrow there's a major vulnerability. And you have to know about the vulnerability in order to update your clients. Just this year, Microsoft had some severe vulnerabilities that were going around and mass exploited. And it was interesting. You have to have a desire to learn that. Don't take the information for granted. So what I mean by that is that within cybersecurity, it's really the small details that matter. A lot of times, in my field, like penetration testing, it's these little, you start combining small vulnerabilities, and when you combine them, they become a larger one. So you might not see like, entire database opened up right in front of your eyes, but you might find one response in your browser is off, and from that point on, you continue developing. You have to have your eye looking for those small details. another thing is that when you learn information, there's learning information, but there's actually practicing it and really understanding it. The way I find I understand information the best is by not understanding it. In other words, trying to perform an attack which I've learned about and failing. And through that failure, I have to now reverse understand what's going wrong. And that process has always let me understand things better than having just, okay, I learned something, I performed it, move on. Those times it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. So it's that struggle which really helps me understand and grow in my information and performance. And finally, the last thing, and this has been huge for me, is making connections through Twitter, LinkedIn, Discord, and Slack. There's the security information community is extremely helpful. They're always trying to help people, especially in the beginning. And while I started on LinkedIn, I'll be honest that once I started working penetration testing, Twitter has been my go-to. It's filled with information from proof of concepts, vulnerabilities, people offering amazing resources and things like that. Discord is where I go to ask people questions. There's a lot of groups you could sign up for, as well as Slack. Slack is also, it's not as good as Discord in my opinion, but it's available. So it's something to take into account. Resources. These are a lot of the resources which I share with people, but these are all a lot of, again, cybersecurity, it's like 90%, it's like, I think I'll get to this after, but like 90% of it is hands-on and 10% is just, listening and writing down information. So all these resources here offer tremendous value for the dollar. Like TryHackMe is $10 a month. It includes tremendous amount of paths and labs. It's fun. It's not as it's beginner friendly, and it even moves towards, you can get certificates. I wouldn't say certifications, but they could help you towards certifications. Hack the Box is a little bit more advanced, but at the same time, now they're opening up something called the Academy. It's already open. It has modules. It's a little bit on the expensive side, but it's very solid modules and courses. But the actual Hack the Box, you could do labs of theirs for like $13 a month. You could start getting access to the labs and building up your repertoire and Hack the Box. And they have tons of different challenges. The Cyber Mentors courses, they're always on sale for $15, and they made a huge difference to me. Portswigger Academy. So Portswigger Academy, it's free. It's free online. If you want to go into web application testing, which is one of the most sought after professions, Portswigger Academy, check it out. It's free, and they have a certification now that they started offering for $100. INE, if you're doing pen testing, the starter pass is free. You sign up for the starter pass, it's free. You learn all this information to begin to get a junior penetration testing certification. And to take the certification, it's only $200. And I did this when I started out, and it really boosted me in the right direction. Another resource, Pentester Academy, it's $250 a year, but they have like 1,800 labs that include topics from all over, like reverse engineering, down to like kernel level, exploit development, web application testing, network testing, everything. So it's very flexible. It's totally worth it. And there's so much more. So, I could keep going. A lot of people who call me, I have longer conversations with them about what else is out there. But this is just for this, slideshow here. So this is an example of Cyber Mentor. He's offering, this was like a couple days ago, 50% off. It's $15, right? It just this is the type of thing you'll see all the time on LinkedIn. Okay, so a little bit about like what it would be like in day in life of a pen tester. So it sounds like there's big exploitations and it's impossible to figure out. But like I write over here, it's really not so scary. It's 80% of it is just getting down on methodology, right? Now that takes time, and it's a lot of repetition. But once you stick to the methodology, you'll end up finding bugs, and you'll end up finding exploitations. And this is essentially what the methodology is. There's a pre-engagement. You understand what your client scope is. You start doing intelligence gathering, and this is really the core right over here is intelligence gathering, because the more intelligence you have, the longer you spend on intelligence gathering, the more successful you're going to be at the rest, right? The more information you have at your disposal, the more efficient you're going to be when trying to make sense of that data. Threat modeling and vulnerability analysis. So, you start taking all your data, looking up and doing research online, finding out vulnerabilities, and really Google is going to be your friend. So I'm sure this has been a theme throughout the year, but when you find, usually pen testers, especially at the beginning, are not writing their own exploits. They're using one days. A one day is something which has been posted online, it's been shared with the public, and it just hasn't yet been implemented by companies, and it takes time for companies really to patch and implement things. And so penetration testers are there to kind of find those and say, hey, this is an exploitation that's going around, and we found that you're vulnerable to this. And so that would just be an example of the vulnerability analysis. Okay, and then you would take that and bring it to the exploitation stage. And post-exploitation is really then just a cycle of what we just said from before. It's, again, the intelligence gathering, vulnerability analysis, because as you exploit, you then open up more and more attack surface, right? You might have exploited one computer, you look through that computer, and suddenly you see that it's attached to another network. And so now you have a whole nother network that you have access to. And so you have to start that information gathering stage over again. It's a cyclic process. And as long as you stick to the methodology, you'll be successful. And of course, reporting is at the end of that, of your engagement. Something which is not to be stressed enough is note taking. Here's just a picture from one of my note. There's like a folder, and it would be, I have notes on, this is from an INE course, okay, or Active Directory over here. So it's one topic, you can break it down, and this particular note-taking application is called Obsidian, and it's written in something called Markdown, but learn it fairly easily, and it's absolutely beautiful. Like the notes are able to search and combine and print and export. It's really nice. Notion is another option, and both of these are free. Notion also has an online application. Really flexible. You could do so much with it, and it just has saved me so much time and energy that I don't have to keep learning things over and over again. I just go back to my notes, I review it, and that's it. And the rest of the day is just Twitter for me, like just making sure that I'm in the know, and keeping myself interested and seeing what's going on. So I think that's it for that. So obviously I want to answer as many questions as possible. So let me just stop the share here for 1 second. Wait, did it stop share? Okay. I don't know if that was too fast or not, but I would love to take questions from anybody. Did you take any certs? That's a great question. So yeah, one of the first things I did after actually leaving Tzomet was started to focus on certifications. You could do certifications almost like there's no end to them. And what I mean by that is you don't have to take it so seriously. And what I mean by that is, okay, that you're trying to get a job. Okay, that's the goal. The goal is to get a job. Once you have a job, and to get into a beginner penetration tester or whatever it is, you don't need to have so many major certifications. You have to show that you could put in the work, that you're smart and capable of doing your job. And by and large, a lot of companies will actually pay for further study and certifications moving forward. Okay, so like in CyberSafe, the way it works is that every certification we pass, they'll pay you for that certification, right? And that's something that's standard. Like I have a friend who works in another company, and every year they pay for the whole company to take the GIOC. I'm slipping my mind right now, which SANS. So SANS, like a $7,000 certification, and it's very, very sought after. But the whole company they get to each choose one of their courses. So that's basic. So to get in the door, definitely take certifications. but don't go overboard with it. You don't need to have OSCP, OSWP, ASAE. You don't need all of these, but you should definitely work towards a few, because first of all, it helps. These certifications aren't just a test. They have like they have a path of studying. There's a study path, as well as a way to concretize your knowledge, right? You know afterwards that you're capable of doing. A lot of the tests nowadays actually have really good emulation of real life, like of what a real life penetration test would be like, right? And again, I'm keep stressing penetration testing. That's my experience, but there's certifications for so many different types of fields within cybersecurity. So I think there was another question here. What skills are most valuable for pen testing? Again, I think that the most valuable skill is just interest, and being analytical, loving information, like information security, loving it, finding that you enjoy. Like if you don't enjoy it, then it's probably not for you. But if you're enjoying it because it's tedious, there's a lot of, it's those small details. And sometimes we're looking for the big, like the big exploit that suddenly, is mind-boggling. And I've come by those, I've come by some mind-boggling exploitations that are like shocking that the company is still alive. But those don't happen every day. The day in and day out is more minute stuff, and you're able, and the good pen tester is able to take that minute stuff and show impact. He's able to take let's say XSS, right, cross-site scripting, and run JavaScript on a website. You're able to take that and show impact. So what if you could, throw an alert bar, like alert pop-up? The big deal, but you could show impact and still, you could actually create a proof of concept and steal cookies and be able to log in as the administrator, right? Like, if you're able to do that kind of thing, then you've just shown impact. And so it's these small things which kind of differentiate between the good pen tester and just your average, somebody who's just running scripts or not knowing exactly what they're doing. Another question here from Rifki Appel. How much time after finishing Tzomet did you feel ready to apply for a job, and how intensely did you study in that time? So I'll be honest, like, I decided I wanted to be a pen tester. It's not the easiest path. It's very challenging because, it's not one focus. Penetration tester, like the difference between pen testing and, let's say, consultant, right? So a consultant has to know the different rules that apply to, I don't know, healthcare policy or financial policy, different things like that. There's a lot of technical terms. They get it down, and they start grilling businesses. Let's say doing cloud engineer. So you focus on cloud, but a penetration tester usually is expected to be able to know all these technologies, right? So starting out at the beginning, I was studying 10 hours a day. Like, I think I was putting in 8 to 10 hours a day after Tzomet, and I was pursuing those certifications at the same time. So I did EJPT from INE. After EJPT, I did EWPT, which is a continuation of, I decided to focus on web. Web is so big out there. Everybody has some sort of web exposure and web facing, to the world. That's how they get exposure. So being that they are exposed, maybe there's some vulnerability over there, and it's very common. And at that point, I decided to focus on Active Directory. Just for myself, I love challenging myself with the things I don't understand at all. And like, if the first time I didn't understand it at all, I'll get really frustrated, but I know that I'll come back to it and try to perfect it. So the one like field that I no clue, I didn't understand at all was Active Directory at the time. And I started just studying, and I've been doing that for about a year now. So I ended up getting a certification in that called CRTP from the Pentester Academy. I also took their more advanced one, but I haven't yet taken the certification for that. So it's been a lot of study, and I still consider myself new. I still consider myself like a junior pen tester at this stage, and I think I'm doing well. I think I'm growing, in my career, but there's still room to grow, and so I still find myself studying a lot. Even at work, we have, on the days that we don't have pen tests, so there's a lot of times for study as well. So CyberSafe actually, just in case anybody has the opportunity to come get a job over here, there's a lot of opportunity. If you're working in penetration testing, there is those opportunities to do a lot of studying as well. So during the job. Another question here. Have used or heard of check marks code bashing for training developers to avoid developers in the code? I have, but that would be more of a developer. Like, in other words, it's called like secure coding practice. So I'm not a developer. I know how to. And I definitely encourage anybody who wants to go into development, because it's a very lucrative field as well. And if you do have secure code practice within development, then maybe you could lead the team in that. But I would say that that it's not the same as cybersecurity. It's more development path. So yeah. Are you part of a team or charged with working on specific clients individually? From Moshe. There's a few of us. Sometimes we work together on a project, and sometimes we work individually. So it just depends on the work demand. Sometimes there's a lot of tests going along, and sometimes there's less. When there's, or sometimes there's a very big scope, and like we're working on internet providers, and the internet provider has scopes like thousands and thousands and thousands of IPs, including IPv6, which is like trillions. So like, with those types of scopes, it takes weeks and weeks and weeks, and you have to break it down, and you split it amongst the team. What are future opportunities you are looking at, long-term goals, and the like? So I honestly, right now, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and not looking too far in terms of different careers at the time. But like I mentioned earlier in the slides, from penetration testing, I could see myself going into research, exploit development. Maybe sometime in the future. I've been starting to practice a little bit of C# coding, which is one of the .NET frameworks that works well with Windows. And so essentially, as I said earlier, I really like Active Directory, and from penetration testing, you could go into another similar field called red teaming, which is different but similar in the sense that you're still doing the same, same reconnaissance, vulnerability analysis, exploitation, but you're doing it, you're emulating an attacker, and you also have a blue team defending at the same time. So you're trying to avoid being detected, and you have a lot more defenses put in place. Usually, people who are asking for red teaming are big organizations that have EDRs, which are like very high level detection systems in their networks, and you're trying to bypass these. So we're talking about a much more advanced level of penetration testing, which has a different vibe to it as well. So that would answer a little bit of where my future opportunities would go and long-term goals. And those are the questions I see now. Any other questions? I know that a lot of people who call me ask me, just about good resources, and like I said before, there's a lot of good resources out there, and it's really worth it. Like just jumping right in. I think that one of my regrets in Tzomet was we were told about try hack me and hack the box, and I didn't take advantage. I didn't jump right into it. I was kind of waiting until I felt like I was ready. And what actually happened is before I went to CyberSafe, I got set up with it was right when Corona hit. So the internship ended up being a bit remote with another company. And this company was like, okay, you're remote and you can't be hands-on, so just start doing hack the box labs. And I remember just struggling for, I think it was like 4 months straight, every day, like 6-7 hours, hack the box labs. But it made the world of a difference. Like from that point on, I had tons of notes. I was completely opened up to the whole field, and I just felt so much more confident. And I went right from there. I did EJPT from that point. Like after I did hack the box for a few months, I did EJPT in like 3 weeks, done, certification, right? It was a really, really smooth transition, and everything after that kind of started falling in place. So it's really important to do do these labs and take advantage of the resources, and just choose something that you like. You know, if it's web, then do Portswigger Academy, or there's another one as well. It's called like Pentester, Pentest Labs. It's specific to web. Read about it, build a website, tack it. You know, there was one interview I took, and that's another thing, is that when I started sending out resumes, and I didn't send it out, I just took risks. So like, I would apply to red teaming jobs for like 5-year seniors, and I would just apply, and I would tell them, like, if you don't want to be disappointed, like if you want to take a risk with somebody, I won't disappoint. And they would call me and we would have an interview and I would fail, but it didn't matter because they would give me afterwards. I would then email them and ask them for tips. And I'm friends with so many of these people now who I just reached out to, like big deal. Like, you get rejected from a job I was never going to get anyways. You know, I don't have senior penetration skills, but it didn't matter. Like, now I have a lot of connections, and these people, you know, I reach out to them when I'm stuck. And just the other day I was on a phishing engagement and I was going back and forth with this guy who had actually told me that I wasn't ready for his company yet, but I was telling him some of the tools that I was using, and he was really, really impressed, because it was like he had shared a link online, and I was like, oh, by the way, you could upgrade that to perform a much better attack using X, Y, and Z. And so the two of us collaborated a little bit, and it was just nice to be able to, you know, come full circle and see that happen. So yeah, anyways, I wish everybody Hatzlacha Rabba, and I'm always available. You could always reach out to me on LinkedIn. I like answering questions, and feel free. Thanks.
Shaya, thank you very much for being with us. We wish you much continued bracha v'atzlacha in all your endeavors.
Amazing.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very great.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
See you next week.